This is the toughest white boy the NBA has ever seen. Steve Blake was known for getting in fights and getting aggressive with people, and they were all bigger than him. He was a short, scrawny white guy, but that didn't matter. People were scared of him. Legendary players like Gilbert Arenas and Kobe Bryant had so many stories that proved how tough he was. The moments on the court are obvious. He fears no man, as we can see. But there are some stories from behind the scenes that you had to be there to believe it. It's two stories. Story number one. Steve Blake and Gilbert Arenas were playing for the Washington Wizards. Gilbert Arenas was a superstar at the time, but Steve Blake didn't care. He felt like he was outworking him at the time, so he felt like he should be starting over him. So he said it out loud. I should be starting over you. And as he did it, he pointed right in his face. He basically tried to punk him. And for the rest of that practice, they were playing overly aggressive against each other. Gilbert Arenas throwing elbows, Steve Blake scratching them. You know how it gets. And eventually, Steve Blake was ready to fight, so he swung on him. Now, the rumor is that he didn't connect with the punch, and they just ended up in a wrestling match until their teammates broke it up. They must have buried the camera footage, because I can't find it anywhere. The second story is when he played for the Lakers. It was during practice, and he was guarding Hall of Fame player Steve Nash, one of the best point guards the NBA has ever seen. Steve Nash has sacrificed so much for the game, and you would think he would demand some type of respect. But like I said earlier, Steve Blake doesn't care. They were scrimmaging, the starters versus the bench, and Steve Blake was guarding Steve Nash. Steve Blake was playing tough defense and probably a little too aggressive, and Steve Nash called a foul. Steve Blake yelled out loud, "Stop calling them weak fouls," and punched him in his face. He's a different breed. There's so many stories about him getting aggressive with everybody and fighting everybody, but these are just a couple examples to show you how tough he was. But with all the violence and aggressive behavior being put on his name, a lot of his teammates say that he is only like that when he's on the court. It's like he turns into a different person. But when he's off the court and just doing day-to-day stuff, he's actually a nice guy. Peace.
Steve and I have always played extremely well together. And, he's a clutch shooter, and he's a tough competitor. I mean, that's one of the things I like about him. Is his toughness. So we're going